Okay, I'm back to video 4, and I'm behind the clutch here. There's a bolt down there, so it's way down. It's hard to really see it in there, but there's where the bolt goes. If you can see that right there. So I've enlarged it so it looks bigger than it is. Okay, so that's where the bolt goes. And this is the bolt right here. Okay, so that's another small, and I'd say that's the same as the others at 1 inch. So all the threads are the same size for the 1 inch. So again, there's the 1 inch there. Okay, so that's that. Okay, now I'm showing you a lot of this because for one, not connected to the pump. That's the pump right there, around your clutch. Around this, there's a lot of bolts. Okay, so, but the alternator bolt has to be removed because of that is connected to this housing. This is connected to the whole thing here, up here, down here, across. And I think this is a pull tab. So this thing, you get behind it and you pull this out. You can see right in here the crack is moving. That's where the water and the antifreeze and stuff is located. But you can see that wiggling. Okay, so now these bolts have to come off because they're attached to a bracket. This is real loose. I undid them right here. But this has to come off because it's attached to this. And these cords, these sensors, this stuff here, this doesn't need to come off. This pressure gauge and so forth. So, okay. So anyway, I'm just showing you what needs to come off for the pump. That's the pump part. Okay, now, my problem too is not only the clutch has gone, it just, I can tell this clutch is gone because it was free flying. Once they free fly, that's the spring in back of here is a it's operated with the pulley. When it spins, it has a spring on the back of it. Okay, so I might not be precise at talking about all this, but anyway, so there's a bolt on the back of this that needs to come off, and that's to get rid of this and replace it. Okay, so now my problem too was, if you take a look at this, see this, how this goes up and down? This mechanism here, this is a belt pulley wheel here. So as you can see that, not this turning, but in back here. So this pull belt mechanism here, flywheel. Anyway, that wheel, it was moving. See, that's why it was leaking through behind here. There's a bearing or whatever in on this, and so it was leaking through. So I got to replace the clutch. It was bad, and pull all this out, and the pump's going. So the pump has the bearing and so on. So anyway, this pull wheel, this needs to go with this coming off it. Behind this is a bolt, which everybody shows you. That's at 36 millimeter. And then there's, I took the bolts out here, but when I take this out, I will access this where I can unscrew it that way. This bolt goes to your left. So this you have to hold with the bolts here with another mechanism. You can rent them in O'Reilly or whatever, and that will hold this that way to the right. So you're basically holding this to the right, and your bolt goes to the left. Lefty-loosey. So, and yet this will spin if you don't lock it down, because there's a few bolts, I took them out, and those bolts will hold a stick, basically a metal piece. You can rent this kit at O'Reilly that holds this way, and then you can access the bolt with a real thin wrench, 36 millimeter, it's real large. Anyway, and a thin wrench that's 36 big for the bolt to hold it going that way. And then you can release this. And I'm taking this all out. So this does not matter. I took the fan off of this because it's just in my way to get to the bolt. And then I remove this, all of the pump. Then I can take this off, not on the car with the pump. I'll remove all this. I'll lock this down. I'll be able to I'll undo the bolt. So you get an idea then that there's many bolts, and you need to know where they go and what size, because there's a lot of them. And if you can remember them all, that's fine. But they have certain lengths for the depth, and you can't put one in and replace another. You'll have some problems. Some of these look like they'll fit another bolt, so you got to be careful with that. So my next step now is to remove these two, and then remove that. That will just hang here, and then I can remove the pump. And I left the hose on because, again, I'm going to replace this hose. Always replace the hoses. If you're going to do the pump and everything, just replace them. They're 15 bucks. And I'm going to replace the upper hose here because they get old and they'll heat up here from the metal, and they'll crack around here. So you'll have to take this apart again, or have trouble accessing something or whatever the problem is, like down here, because it's definitely easier right now. It's all available to you. Just replace the hoses. If you got a pump problem, replace the clutch. This is just going to be much better for you to put new parts in here. A little more expensive maybe, I don't know. Depends on what you figure the costs are, but the cost to me is worth it. I don't want to pull this whole radiator out, the whole thing here. It's much easier to pull all this out than to have to deal with fighting anything for hours and having busted knuckles. Or you can hurt the radiator part and gouge a hole in it, and after you reassemble it, you'll see, oh my god, I got a hole, and you got to pull it all out again. So just caution, and be wise about all these parts. And this whole radiator, this whole section here with these attachments and everything else, that doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, you're talking 45 minutes or whatever, an hour, maybe somebody not as inclined to be able to remove these, the whole thing, the water pumps and everything. But if you do it, you're much better off. So it might take you 2 hours. I don't know. Took me 35, 45 minutes. And I pulled the whole front out. It just has 4 bolts over here. Here's the bracket right here. And that's attached to a couple of wires. So you don't have to remove that away. So you just put it up there. And then you remove the parts here. And this all takes a short amount of time. And then you can access everything very easily. If you're trying to work between the radiator and the clutch and fan and the housing, the shrouding, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The cost and savings to me is far worth, hundreds of dollars worth the aggravation and time and losing a bolt or whatever it takes. So just to be aware. Okay, I'm going to go on to remove a couple other bolts, and then I'll free the water pump and be back to the next video.